At the moment, to be honest, I would not trust anything coming from this administration. I mean, whatever they have there in mind, I think the last one they have in mind is to support Ukraine with robust military or army. So the priorities is completely different. It's about Latin America, it's about Greenland, Canada, whatsoever. But I don't see their role in a constructive way at the moment in Ukraine or even in the European Union as such. So I would say there's still more helping Putin in not losing or not really deterring Putin or not giving him the impression that there will be a serious, how to say, a serious unity in the Old West as we have known it for decades. And so Putin can be rather safe in telling that he still insists on the old war goals.
What did Friedrich Merz's statements imply about Germany's intended leadership role in stopping the war and shaping the European peace architecture? And what potential risks or opportunities do these positions create for EU unity and decision making?
Well, I don't see a potential risk. I mean, actually, if the statement is taken seriously by all the leaders, I think this would be very much in the interest of the EU, but also of Ukraine. And I remember when I was member of the European Parliament that everyone asked for it. They asked for more leadership from Germany. They asked for more front runner position, so to say. They asked for more investment, especially in the military sector. They asked for active deployment of troops along at the border of NATO states and so on. So I think it's good that finally Friedrich Merz, our chancellor, took up this leadership and made this statement. The problem here is that the statement is not sufficient. So also we need to see more action and we need to see real support. And here I would say with the disunity of the European Union, which we have seen at the Mercosur treaty or agreement. I mean, it was finally agreed today, but it took much longer, and still we just made it over the 65% hurdle, but also in many other questions, I would say it's definitely not enough if Germany says they would like to lead in some of the affairs. So yes, there are a lot of pluses, but definitely not enough.
How you assess Paris Declaration in general, which was signed by coalition of the will in US and Ukraine, and actually mainly I'm curious about prospect of deployment of multinational forces of France and UK in Ukraine, because we know that Russia threatens that they will be legitimate target.
Well, of course, Putin is a bully, and this is expected that, or was expected, that he will perceive any kind of robust support by soldiers, by military coming from the European Union as such. But I would say the Paris Declaration is a good step, is the right step or the step in the right direction, but it's also not sufficient. So first of all, it's not the same as a NATO membership or accession. There is not the same security commitment as you see this from the multinational NATO contract or commitment. Second of all, still the implementation is very weak. I mean, it's nice on paper, but in the end, so far, it's only Britain and France who have signed the real declaration and have really committed with troops. But also here we have to see and we have to ask. I mean, the army, the British army is very small currently, and all over the world, soldiers are deployed. So there's a question of quantity. Paris has no or hardly made a budget last year. The right wing, the left wing parties do not agree to deploy soldiers into Ukraine or even support Ukraine in a broader way. So even the declaration looks good on paper. The question, the concrete deployment, the concrete implementation question could not be solved. And of course, we do not see any interest for a ceasefire agreement. So we're speaking about the third step before we have made the first real step, and that is a lot of rosy picturing, I would say, which is also not helpful because you raise expectations in Ukraine, while you see that the reality on the ground looks completely differently.
At the same time, now we hear a lot about US security guarantees for Ukraine. They are supposed to start working after signing of a peace agreement. But I'm sure that Russia will not sign any document where there will be efficient security guarantees for Ukraine. I see here geopolitical dead end. What do you see?
At the moment, to be honest, I would not trust anything coming from this administration. I mean, whatever they have there in mind, I think the last one they have in mind is to support Ukraine with robust military or army. So the priorities is completely different. It's about Latin America, it's about Greenland, Canada, whatsoever. But I don't see their role in a constructive way at the moment in Ukraine or even in the European Union as such. So I would say there's still more helping Putin in not losing or not really deterring Putin or not giving him the impression that there will be a serious, how to say, a serious unity in the Old West as we have known it for decades. And so Putin can be rather safe in telling that he still insists on the old war goals. So if we do not arm, if we do not equip Ukraine with much more air defense, if we do not make sure that also on the innovation technology side, intelligence side, we scale up and move on much faster, it would be super difficult even to bring Putin on the negotiation table. And that is, I think, the key question at the moment.
How can events develop in Greenland? Because we know that Trump stated that United States need the island because of national security.
For me, it's still demonstration of power. I don't think that the US needs Greenland for security issues. I think this is just a pretext. This is an excuse. And what we have heard from military and security experts, that is not the real reason. I think it's more to show off, but also to distract maybe from the Epstein files. I mean, that is, I guess, the most dangerous domestic topic which could topple Trump at the moment, and where he could topple, or what he could be afraid of. And so he uses all opportunities, be it minimum invasive intervention in Venezuela, or some new deal with Greenland, or some threatening of Cuba or Colombia, or whatever he sees as a good opportunity for himself, but not so much in the interest of the US.
We don't see at the negotiation table Russia and China. Russia is the main aggressor, as we know. China is one of the biggest beneficiary of this war. I would like to talk to you about China. What should be done so China is ready to talk seriously about the end of the war?
Well, I think for China, the things are just going the right way. So to push them to make sure they really become a more active player in this game and they use their leverage they have against Putin. I think many tried at the beginning of the war. Many of the state leaders tried at the beginning of the war, but now you see they started a military maneuver around South Africa for the last days. Even India and Brazil were not involved, but nevertheless, so there is like a loose cooperation of different bigger nations around South Africa, China, Russia, and Iran. And I don't know who might be the influential power who could either push China or could send the right signals or who could attract China. I guess since the United States have no interest really to fight together with the other democratic states, it is super easy for China just to let it go and to see the takeover of Venezuela as a pretext also for their ambition to take over in Taiwan and maybe even in other states. We never know. In the Southeast Sea, it's not sure that they would limit themselves to Taiwan. So here, I think China is a real threat. It's in the space, it's on the maritime side, it's in trade issues, it's in Africa, Latin America. So China is super active everywhere. It can use a lot of pull and strings, but I don't see a real counterpart here since the United States had completely taken off all their cards from the table.
What are the most significant gaps in Europe's current security architecture, military, economic, cyber, energy, exposed by the war? And how should EU institutions, NATO, and national governments address them?
Well, first of all, I see that most of the governments have recognized that that the peacetime is over. And the war, even it's not a hot war in most of the countries, but the hybrid wars have started for quite some time, and it can really hurt their societies, their economies, the whole social fabric, and of course, the disinformation campaigns coming from Russia can really destabilize our societies and has started already. So, on one thing, I see that Merz started to communicate about that, but not in an emotional, empathic way, more in a CEO style of way. And here I think we have to find the right way of communication to our citizens, to our constituents, to those who are exposed to the threats to the Russian threats. Second of all the intelligent question, the gathering of intelligence, we are not there where we need to go. In Germany, we will see a draft law very soon that our intelligence will have new competences, will have new resources, will have new staff, which is urgently needed to secure and to make sure our safety is not undermined by external and internal actors. And here I see that other states are much more ahead, also in Europe. And of course, on a military base, we do not have the capabilities in the defense sector, in the um, Navy partly, but mainly in the airspace. And here, of course, a European initiative is overdue, but it takes a lot of time and we don't have the time.
How can Europe support Ukraine politically, financially, and militarily in ways that strengthen resilience without becoming a hostage to domestic political divisions?
Well, this is maybe also a bit more a question to Ukrainian politicians and maybe even to the president himself. I think he have settled some of the questions. I think he have taken some people out and have given them new positions. He have employed new people. So there is a kind of a reform taking place in the presidential administration, which makes it much easier also for us to support Ukraine financially and economically, and also to look for potential investors to make sure that the budget transfer, the budget support will be paid in time in the trenches. Next step is together with the International Monetary Fund, with the IMF, we will look for new loan, new tranches of reform credit. And this is, of course, linked to a real reform agenda. Here we need more the Ukrainian side. We need to see that the additional reforms which are needed on anti-corruption, but also in the financial sector, in the judiciary, that they're really done. And then it is much easier also here in the West, in the European states, on the European level, on the national member states level, to lobby for new funds and for new money. I'm very optimistic the money will be found. That is not the problem. It's more that we also channel this money into the right projects and into the right direction.
Looking ahead, what would a resilient European security architecture look like in 2030 to 2035, considering NATO's evolution or degradation, EU strategic autonomy, and regional security arrangements in Central and Eastern Europe?
It very much depends on the next elections in many of our member states in the European Union, but as well as in the United Kingdom. For example, if Mr. Farage will succeed, if he is the biggest, or if his party will come out first, and his aim or his goal is to destroy NATO, the European security architecture, it is super difficult to keep UK on board. But UK is one of the biggest supporter and is the main driving force or engine in this topic. So we will see how France will excuse me, how France will vote in 2 years. Many other countries we have not. I mean, if we do not have the critical mass of supporters for more resilient European architecture, it is super difficult to plan now and to put the necessary financial means if you do not have people, if you do not have institutions who pick up and realize.
Thank you very much for sharing European perception of situation in Ukraine. That's all. Thank you very much again, and have a good day.
Thank you, Maxim. All the best and stay safe in Ukraine. Hope to see you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye bye.